Hey, recovery kings and queens, this is Sarah, and welcome to You're So Annoying When I'm Sober. Hey guys, so in this episode, you're going to be meeting the current Oxford State Chair, which is Jim Richardson. Jim has been in Oxford for 10 and a half years and is actually my Oxford mentor. Yes, I made that up because he has mentored me. But anyways, Jim lives and breathes Oxford as his own recovery program. A lot of you listening know that Jim is quite the character, and he talks about how he got involved in Oxford and what makes Oxford such a huge part of his story. I know he was bummed that this wasn't videoed. He was planning a very special outfit to be put on. Please enjoy the special guest as we dive into what Oxford really is and what misconceptions people may have. This will be my first interview and more to come with many different walks of life. Enjoy. Hey guys, welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Today I have a super special guest. It's the one, the only Jim Richardson. Hi Jim, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. And yourself, Stellar?
I'm doing real good. So I have a few questions for you. First of all, what do you do?
I get shit done.
Yeah, you do. All right. So how did you get involved with Oxford House and what motivated you to become part of it for over a decade?
Well, let's see. I went to a chapter meeting once. Actually, I'd been to a couple. And I went to one, and it was supposed to start at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and it was already 35 minutes late, and they were waiting for the co-secretary to show up, and my ride was threatening to leave me, and, after I had to ask him not to leave, I just told him that, this would never happen again because I was going to get involved, and I just started stepping up and doing stuff when they were asking. It was a little easier for me because I don't work because I'm on disability. So I was able to do a lot of stuff that other people, if I've been working, I wouldn't have been able to do. And so I started to get involved, and I got involved at the chapter level and eventually didn't like the way a couple things I saw at the state level and decided to get involved. And I got involved at the state level. And ever since then, I've been pretty much a state officer for 6 of the last 7 years, or 7 of the last 8 years. I think 6 of the last 7 years. I did take a 1-year break to go back and do the chapter chair position, but been pretty involved ever since then.
So, and you've been with Oxford for 10 and a half years, right?
Yeah.
Much. That's a long time. So as someone who's been in part of Oxford House for such a long time, how has the experience shaped your life and impacted your recovery journey?
So it's shaped my life in the fact, and my recovery journey is that I'm not a 12-stepper. It's not worked for me. And doing service work for Oxford and staying involved is what's really formed and molded my recovery. I'm all about Oxford. And yeah.
Yeah. What would you say have been the most challenging parts of being such a big part of Oxford?
The challenging parts are, I guess, some of the marathon women's house meetings I've been to. I could name one house in particular. Do you want me to throw a name out there?
Go for it.
Well, that would be the Inglewood Park House. If I'm not mistaken, you used to be a member there.
Absolutely.
Amongst other house meetings, but not always just women's, men's too at times. Mm-hmm. But particularly the women's house meetings, because women can...
We can
be kind of catty.
Absolutely. That's
so. I mean, it's crazy about some of the things they want to... I've been at some 4-hour house meetings at women's house meetings before.
Yeah. I know, for sure you have. I've been in trouble by you.
Yeah.
A couple.
Was punched you one night.
I think we remember that. We've come a long way.
From that ride to Sheridan.
Yes. Oh, yes. So Jim was the guy who took me to go get all my stuff from my ex's house to move into the Inglewood Park house. And I went in there and we grabbed a bed and we grabbed a couple of boxes. We got back in the truck, I headed back to Inglewood, and I feel something pokey on my leg. And I'm like, what the heck is that? And it's like, it's driving me nuts. And so honestly, I was like, sorry, Jim, I got to do this. And I reached down my pants and I pulled it out and I was like, shit. And I'm sweating now because it was literally a rock of meth. So I quickly put it in my pocket at first because my addict mind was like, you're going to take that later, right?
Yeah.
But I was sweating balls. I was like, he has to know. He definitely knows. So I rolled down his window and I just threw it out really quick. And I didn't tell him for probably, a good year and a half after my recovery. But yeah, that was a good one. So you're considered a mentor among a lot of us. How do you think you've influenced our recovery doing that?
Well, I'd like to think that, and I know that I've influenced people in the recovery, but more along the lines of their Oxford journey, which probably plays a big part in people's program, whether it's a 12-step program, Celebrate program, whatever works for people. And I think a lot of people have seen me doing a lot of things, and that motivates them to get involved. Like I know a lot of people that became chapter officers in chapter 14 and such were people that saw me at their house meetings, saw what I was doing. Same with, I believe, at the state level too, being involved at the state level, meeting people, whether it be at the state convention, at the leadership summit, or at a state meeting, or just seeing them at maybe an event and talking to people, and people see that you're getting things done.
Mm.
And they want to get involved that way. And I could list off a bunch of people that I know. I'm not just going to start naming names, but I know a lot of people that's impacted their life in that aspect per se.
Yeah, it makes us feel like we're part of a community, that we're accepted by a group of people. And, it a lot of times starts with someone so high up in my opinion, where when I seen Jim, when I was first coming into Oxford, he was our chapter chair in chapter 14. And, you tend to follow the lead. And although we had our spiffs, I was always looking at what he was putting on and how cool it was and what a community he had of people. And I wanted that. And, and eventually I got that by doing what was suggested by him as well. In your opinion, what makes Oxford House unique compared to other recovery houses?
So I never lived in another recovery house. I've only know by what I hear, but Oxford, I know there's some other ones out there that allow the family aspect, but Oxford in a whole, with the kids are a huge part to me. I always tell everybody, my main concern in houses, especially where there's kids involved, are the kids. The kids, none of the kids asked to be born to an alcoholic or a drug addict, and we or you, depending on how you look at it, put them there. So it's always been the house I live in. It's always been super important to me when we do have kids that they come first. So it's not at the house I live in, we never had because she was kids here, we're a revolving door of girlfriends or just women come into the house, because it to me it's a bad image for a child, especially we've had a girl that was 9-10 years old that lived here, and we had some one guy especially that was bringing plenty of fish girls in here, and it just, in my mind, it's not the image we want to lay out there for those people. And we've had one kid that's been here must be over 6 years now. That's kind of he's family to all of us, and especially to me. And there's couple other guys, but like I've been probably the second most, I don't want to say involved, but like the person that he has seen besides his dad, I would probably be the next person that he's seen the most in his life. So, it's, I'm close to him. And then obviously with what's going on in my life right now, others people's children as well.
Yeah. That kind of gives me shiver my timbers because, I just feel like I would, like everybody that knows Jim knows that if Jim has your kid, they're safe. There's just not a question about it. And that's something really amazing. And what I think he's saying is it's that consistency that kids are getting in an Oxford house, that consistency and that love from other people. I know that there's also kids that come in with traumas of themselves and they're scared of other people. They're scared, some in the women's house. We have kids that had trauma and are scared of other men. So, even though we do allow visitations and stuff like that, I definitely feel it's a good idea to look at all of that. So with that said, with the kids, I know there's other recovery homes, but a lot of times there's actually cap outs on age ranges that can be there. Or even like some male children aren't allowed if it's a women's recovery home. So I think that definitely differentiates us from others.
You just have to be careful because is the house full of women the right place for a 15 or 16-year-old boy?
Right.
Probably not. At some point in time, you do have to look, I need to make a decision to move on, not just for myself, but for my own child. So they have their own room. They're getting even some younger ages, they're getting to be that age where they're more curious, and it's not always conducive to, I don't know, to maybe their upbringing or whatever, to their, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's some insane with, I've had some weird stuff. Like I had a house years ago where this guy was leaving his 14-year-old daughter at home alone while he was sneaking off for 3-4 hours in the middle of the night and in a men's house. And I was like, I know we want to be safe. We want to make it safe because there's some parameters living in an Oxford house, but it's even dangerous for the guys living there.
Well, yeah, you still never know that.
Yeah, I never understood this guy, but he was all about his kid. And I'm like, you're leaving your 14-year-old daughter. I think she was 14.
Yeah.
Maybe even 15-year-old daughter in a men's house. And you don't know if they got friends over. It was just, I just thought it was crazy.
Yeah.
Like it was nuts.
That is nuts. How about, could you share a memorable success story you have?
Honestly, there's a whole bunch, but some of the ones that, kind of stick out in my head are people I know that have met their wives or husbands while they were both living in Oxford. Maybe it wasn't so much Oxford that did it, even though I know a couple for sure. But should just drop first names and no last names.
Yeah.
So Stephen was a roommate of mine, and real knucklehead. He used to do my chores every Sunday when he lives at Cribbage. But he met his future wife, Kelsey, who was actually the chapter chair after I was a chapter chair when I first took a state position, and obviously they dated. He lived in this house. She lived in another house in the chapter. They ended up moving out together, get an apartment, had 2 kids. They've since moved back to her hometown to raise their kids, be close to her family, so it'd be easier, with the younger kids. Got married I want to say last year. A bunch of us from down here from recovery, some that we know from Oxford or just the recovery, and they're married. I think happily, but
right.
She did have to settle for second best
compared to you.
Yep. She knows.
Yeah, so you hear that, you come to Oxford, you might find love. Now I'm going on 3 years. I haven't found love yet, but we're still hoping. So, what would you say are the most common misconceptions about Oxford?
I think some people, like I just said a minute ago, like I'm not a 12-stepper. I don't lie to anybody about it. I have my own program that's worked for me, and it's worked for 11 and a half years now. But I know some people get highly irritated that, like they came in with the idea, with the thought process that, there was a set amount of meetings that you would have to go to live in an Oxford house. And that's always up to the house. Like a house can require it, but not all houses do it. And honestly, a lot of them don't. So, but like, to me, you got to be working some program of recovery. Just coming home, eating, taking a shower, watching TV, going to bed, getting up, and going to work is probably not a program of recovery, but like, because you're not really doing anything. But then again, I'm not anybody to judge anybody else's program and what's working for them. Mm. And but I've had some issues where people have been, complaining over people's lack of, let's say, a 12-step program. And I hear a lot of it. I do hear a lot of it. And sometimes people look at me about it. And like, I'm not ashamed of what I do. And I don't hide it from anybody. And I think sometimes that rubs people the wrong way too. Like, well, you shouldn't say anything, but like, I'm not going to lie to anybody about what I do. I'm not.
Right.
So
I think there is, because people say it doesn't have to be a 12-step program. No, it doesn't. But I think we need to maybe be more vigilant on telling them what it could look like. It could look like church. It could look like going to the gym. It could look like journaling and doing spiritual things with yourself. It could look like a lot of those things. However, I am totally in agreement with you, as when I was first clean, I was just clean, but I wasn't in recovery. Nothing about me inside was changing until I started my program. Yeah. So, and I totally believe that you do have your recovery in Oxford, because Oxford's a real big part of mine. So looking back on your journey, what advice would you give to your younger self at the beginning of your journey?
Well, my younger self, like I don't know, like I was in the Navy, I would have won one in two ways. I probably would have stayed in for the 20 years, or I just would not have gone in from the get-go and probably got a job at PG, which is where my dad worked, and done that. But, yeah, I mean, if you're talking about my addiction or anything like that, like, well, obviously I wouldn't have, I want to say I wouldn't have done this and that, but it's also hard for me because I also believe that, like, I don't regret my addiction because because like 95% of all the people in my life right now, and maybe even higher than that, besides some of my own family, is people I met through my addiction. Yeah. And from the beginning to where I'm at right now, like literally everybody in some way, shape, or form is who I've met through my addiction. Whether it's from Oxford House or people that I know from when I use, because I still know some of them are out there and they're still my friends. They're just, they're not people I hang out with, but I still talk to them if I see them. Yeah. So like, I can't say that obviously, I guess, I'd probably say I'd rather, become addicted, but
where would we be?
Yeah. I wouldn't, like, obviously I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I know that. So, and I wouldn't be where I'm doing the things I'm doing now, or having the people that are in my life now. None of these people would be in my life. It'd be a different whole set of circumstances for me. So,
all right. One more question for you. How do you balance your responsibilities with Oxford and your own personal life? Because we know you're busy.
Well, so I don't. Let's say, like, most of my personal life, I hate to say it because people are going to probably whatever, but most of my personal life revolves around Oxford. Or my friends, once again, my friends in recovery, like if I got a boat, and if I'm taking the boat out, on the weekend, then, I usually try to invite people to go with me and most of them are recovery or from out of Hag Lake. The people that are usually on the shore, people that we know from recovery, or, The camp out I go to every year is an Oxford camp out. Yeah, I mean, like, my time's pretty well booked with Oxford. Like, I'm going to be gone, Saturday I got to drive to LeGrand with a U-Haul full of stuff. So, I mean, and then Sunday will probably be the one day, I want to say the one day where I won't have nothing to do with Oxford, but between now and Sunday, very well something could pop up, and whether it's going out to support, like last week, in a car wash and a taco feed, but in between the car wash and taco feed, I'm stopping at all these Oxford houses delivering UAs. Same with this morning, I am back out in East Portland delivering UAs,
and this is his recovery. So what he's saying is his life revolves around his recovery, around the kids in his life, and around his friends and family. Like, that's how we live now, and it's a beautiful thing. It really is. I appreciate you coming on here, being my first guest. And I thank you. And I thank you for all you do for Oxford. Because, if it wasn't for you, whoa, man, I feel like shit would just go sideways, to be honest with you.
I thought this was about how I annoyed you.
Well, you do annoy me.
Well, I hope so.
You absolutely annoy me. But when I say you're so annoying when I'm sober, it's about people who are drunk or on drugs in my life that annoy the crap out of me. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm sober and I hope I annoy you.
I mean, you do. Absolutely. So know that. All right. Bye, you guys. Stay tuned for our next episode. Jim really cracks me up, you guys. I thought this was about how I annoy you. Well, yeah, I mean, he annoys me, but mainly it's about all addiction, recovery, and relationships and everything in between. We'll get to what annoys me. And mostly it's people that aren't sober, and I am. But, he is a light in Oxford and life. Even though I know he's rolling his eyes at that comment as he listens, something like, yeah, I'll show her the light. I really hope you guys enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed doing this interview. Stay tuned. We have more guests to come, but for next episode, we'll be getting into self-care and how important that is in your recovery. Also, you guys, if you wouldn't mind telling me what you think and what you think I should bring to this podcast, please let me know. Also, I hope you enjoy your week, and I will see you next Tuesday. Hey guys, thanks for listening. And if you're still struggling, don't stay annoying. Get sober.